Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. That guy scrubbing his screen is Gary Stein. Gary, how are you, my friend?
Hey, man, how are you? Tonight's the night.
All right. And when we get back, and when I say get back, I got to do a live read for the Costas Inn. We're going to be talking to the guy who knows more football than anybody else on the air in Baltimore. That's Vinny Cerrato of the Vinny and Haynie Show on 105.7 The Fan. But first, let me tell you about something I know about, and that is the Costas Inn. They've been friends of mine for over 25 years now. They've been sponsors all that time. So you know I like them, and they like me, and they believe in me, but I'm the one that's got to talk about them. Whether it's crab cakes, steamed crabs, a steak, crab soup, anything else, chicken, salads, you can order them online at CostasInn.com, CostasInn.com. You can pay for it online. Then you can pick it up from their curbside. You don't even have to get out of your car. They're located at 4100 North Point Boulevard, institution in town, the Costas Inn. And with that, I'll welcome in somebody who does other ads on the radio for another place called Box Hill, Box Hill Pizzeria. How you doing, Vinny Cerrato?
I am doing wonderful tonight. We got football starting in an hour. Can't wait.
Yep.
I mean, it's gonna be fun. I mean, watching college football last week was exciting. So tired of the preseason games, ready for the real players to play.
Vinny, is what you do now, before we get into talking football, is what you've done now for 10, 11 years? You told me the other day. God, I thought it was like 6 or 7. But do you like doing it because you like sports and want to be around it, or was it a way for you to stay very intimate with pro football and personnel in the hopes that one day you might get back into that?
I don't want to get back in. I think it's a combination. I enjoy, talking football. I enjoy going out to the Ravens. I go to the OTAs, I go to the mini camps, I go to fall camp and everything. I love that. And I get enough of that. If my kids weren't the age that they were, where I was coaching them and doing all those things, and now Charlie playing hockey and Vincent at Penn State, then maybe I would have looked to get back. But I have no desire to get back, just because I love doing the radio. I love talking about the Ravens, and like I said, I go out to practice, and then before the draft, I do, I watch guys on film the whole time. I watch about 70, 80 guys. When I was out at, I think it was mini camp or one of the last mini camp practice, Eric DeCosta said, because we were talking about Isaiah Likely, I said, yeah, he just needs to learn how to run his routes a little better, because they ran all those screen passes at Coastal Carolina. He says, you watch all the film? I said, yeah. I said, I do. I said, Eric, I do, and he says, how do you get it? I said, you can get a ton of stuff on the internet now. You can get games, you can get all kinds of stuff.
That's really great. That's really great stuff. What's your early take on this Ravens team? I want to say, with the competition within the division, they still should be on the plus side of 500.
Oh, yeah.
and could go 12, 13 wins if things pop really right. But there's a lot of question marks, right, Vinny?
I think the same question marks we had at the end of the season, we still got now. I mean, we're still asking, about Ronnie Stanley, who didn't practice today, which I'm guessing that means he's not playing. He hadn't had a full practice yet. Dobbins is still limited. Means he hadn't had a full practice yet. He's not playing either. And it kind of surprised me a little bit, that the corner didn't play.
Peters.
Yeah, Marcus Peters. That Marcus, didn't go full today. I mean, that kind of surprised me a little bit, because if those guys aren't playing, that kind of evens the playing field a little bit, except when you look at the Jets, Dwayne Brown, he's out. He didn't practice the last couple of days, and he's got a shoulder problem. And Fant, the right tackle, he's got a knee issue. And their third tackle, he's got an ankle. So there's some question marks. But back to the Ravens, I like the Ravens. I mean, if they had Ronnie Stanley, Powers, Lindenbaum, Zeitler, and Morgan Moses, they got one of the better O-lines in the league, and then I think that only helps Lamar, and that helps the run game, just because to me last year, Lamar got totally frustrated. He got, he was looking at the rush. I think he had no confidence in the offensive line, and I think that hurt him a bunch.
Yeah. Vinny, let me ask you, when the Ravens ran the football so effectively back in 2019, one of the big keys was Nick Boyle. And then Boyle got hurt. Boyle, of course, a tight end, more of a blocking tight end. What have you seen from him? Is he the same player that he was back in 19 or close to it to give him that edge?
Like, he didn't practice today either. I mean, they're resting him. So, I mean, you got to, because of the injuries and stuff, you got to kind of baby him to get through, which, if you know that as a coach, that's not a problem, missing some practices. But last year, Boyle didn't look like he looks now. Physically, he looks, I mean, you've been out there, Gary. I mean, he looks great physically. Looks like he's chiseled, looks like he's worked out and everything, and looks like he's hit the weight room, looks like he's in great shape. So I would expect him to have a pretty good year. But, I mean, they've got other options, because likely he's going to play a lot in the pass game. Boyle's, like, if you're going back to 19 like they are, you got Andrews, and then you got Hurst there. Now you got Likely, who's better than Hurst.
Right.
19, and Andrews is better now than he was in 19.
Right.
You got Boyle, and then you got Ricard.
Right.
So he's played that spot last year too. So, if you dress Oliver Ross too, I mean, you've got 4 tight ends and a fullback that basically can play tight end. He's 300 pounds. So you got a lot of blockers up front, and going back to 19, you look at the receiving. Marquise was a rookie, and he and Andrews had the most targets. And if Bateman's ahead of where Marquise was at that time in 19, and Bateman's a lot better yak guy than Marquise was. Marquise was, he played small and played light, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So they upgrade there, and the offensive line's better, in my opinion, if Ronnie's there, so, and they had a bunch of Pro Bowlers in 19. The biggest question is, I don't think Dobbins is going to be Dobbins the whole year, Gary. I just don't think he's going to have that burst, kind of like Saquon Barkley last year. What was he saying this year? He said, man, I finally feel like myself. And that's the second year after the surgery. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing with Dobbins and Gus Bus, which is going to be kind of disappointing. But, I mean, it is what it is, so then who's that guy that's got that burst and that explosiveness up through the hole that they were missing? Because right now, if you played Dobbins, he would probably look like Ingram did in 20. Remember, like, he was averaging like 3 yards, and we were saying, man, what's the matter with him? And then all of a sudden they pop Dobbins in there, and he's going for 6 a pop, So they've got to find that guy. And I think in the game Monday, I think they'll be looking. Is it Kenyon Drake? Who is it?
So Vinny, let me ask you this, kind of the elephant in the room, the biggest key to the 19 season was the athleticism and the speed of Lamar Jackson, getting to the outside, making the big runs, making defenses guess, miss, etc. You spent a lot of time, obviously, in the front offices of teams, contract negotiations, etc., free agency. What would you do in the Lamar Jackson situation in terms of his contract? Would you pay him and make him one of the highest, if not the highest paid quarterback in the league?
I think the Ravens are willing to, Gary, to be totally honest. I think it's just about the guaranteed money, and I think that's it. And I think the Ravens, and I don't blame Steve Bisciotti one bit, because 2 other deals have been done since Deshaun Watson, and none of them have that kind of guaranteed money. And
you're talking about the Murray deal, and the quarterback
Russell
with Denver
Wilson.
now.
Russell
Wilson. Yeah.
So you tell Lamar, that was an outlier. That's a guy running crazy over there,
Right.
So bring it back in, and if you want 160 million guaranteed, we're all in, So I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest holdup right now is the guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny, do you think they just simply got unlucky that Lamar and his mom kind of are handling this thing? Do you think this would have gotten done sooner had he been a more standard player with an agent representing him?
I think he would have gotten a deal done, with an agent. Just because because if you're the Ravens, you say, listen, here's the deal. We're not going over 160. Nobody else has gone over this, Cleveland.
Except for Cleveland.
Right.
Yeah.
Cleveland's crazy. Jimmy Haslam's nuts. And, he was just trying to get a guy that told him the week before they were out, so here's our deal. We will not go over this. No matter what you do, we won't go over this. So how do we make up for that? We'll give him, the highest average per year, but we're not going over 160 on the guarantee say. But I think an agent would have, been able to filter through all that stuff to get a deal done. Because Gary, to be totally honest, if it was my son, and if Lamar was my son, and they offered me 160, and 50 million a year, I'd say, hey, take it, man. You're going to earn most of that money and everything. I said, I take it, because you're gambling too much. Just the way that he played for the Ravens, it's not a bad thing to put him on the tag,
Yeah, exactly.
That he plays, because for them to go where they want to go to this year, Lamar's got to be the 2019 Lamar, and Lamar's going to be carrying the ball a bunch and making plays running.
I'm going to go from the most important player in the room, which is Lamar Jackson, to one of the least important. But Benny, being a former executive in the league, when you would draft a player, because the guy I'm talking about is Batty, the guy that they drafted and then released, I just wonder, how bad did he look to you? Because I know what goes in when you invest a draft pick. You don't like to admit you're wrong that soon. You usually get them, you keep them for a while.
He was a 6th-round pick, and I still think that he'll play a role eventually, because I think that he had burst and explosiveness through the hole, and he caught the ball extremely well. In Missouri, he had over 2,000 yards last year in the SEC. Yep. So the guy's a player, but the biggest thing, like Harb's, pass protection. Harb's not putting him in the game if he can't pass protect. And running backs nowadays, Stan, the thing about it is nobody's really picking up a ton of running backs because they're all out there.
They're all interchangeable.
Put him on the practice squad, develop him a little bit more, play some more veteran guys, especially if Dobbins isn't playing, you can't put Beatty in the game against the Jets as one of the 3, because they're going to blitz him. They're going to make him be a blocker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vinny, I want to go back to Lamar. I think it's really interesting, and he's the key to the team. So I think it's worthwhile. Forget about the money for just a minute, but you just made a comment. In order for the Ravens to go the places that they want to go, Lamar's got to go back to 19, be the guy from 19, make the exciting plays, running, etc. Are they paying him to be an athlete, or are they paying him to be a quarterback? And my point is, when things break down, which they will do, many times in a game, an athlete like that, his default may be to go to his legs and become an athlete.
Yep.
Or should he be a quarterback in that situation and go through the reads and make the right read? That's my question. Have you seen enough from Lamar for him to be considered a top flight NFL quarterback as opposed to a top flight NFL athlete?
I think he's a top flight NFL quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens in their offense. I think he's, when you're going to draft Lamar Jackson, when they made that decision, we're all in. We're going to do what Lamar needs to do. And having Greg Roman, that's the best thing that they could do.
That's true.
Look at his history. His passing stats are not good, but his running stats are off the charts. And that's kind of what's proven out. And last year it was kind of interesting because, we need to throw the ball more. We need to develop. We have not heard that one bit this year. It's more like we got all these tight ends. It's more like 2019 because why? To me, coaches they're smart. Harbs is one of the best coaches in the league and says, you know what? When we were good, what were we doing? We're doing what Lamar does best. And that's what we do best. That's how we block best. That's how we play best. That's how our defense is even better, because they're not on the field. In 19, their defense was on the field like 3 quarters, because of time of possession. The Ravens, you were there. In the fourth quarter, games were boring. The fourth quarter was like turn it off.
8-minute drive. Yep.
Yeah. So, I think that's what Harvs would love to do.
Let me turn it over to the defense real quick. It's almost impossible to think this is true, but it is. The Ravens had the worst pass defense in the league last year. They gave up almost 280 yards per game. We know the injuries and all that, so no need to rehash that. My question is, what difference will Mike Macdonald make? How is that defense schematically different this year?
Yeah. Well, I think did you watch Michigan play at all?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what they're going to do, especially like a guy like Kyle Hamilton. He's going to be Dax Hill in that defense. You know? He's going to be all over the place. He's going to line up on the slot. He's going to be blitzing. And I wouldn't doubt that he has 4 or 5 sacks himself this year, that kind of thing. And maybe Chuck Clark too. But I think it's going to be more disguise and a lot less zero blitzes with no safety.
Yep.
You know, they'll play more zone behind their blitzes and stuff because they had so many mental busts last year. And, you know, and let's face facts. I mean, a lot of mental busts were in that first game, and Marlon Humphrey was the cause of a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know? And I think not having Marcus Peters, I think, killed him because I think Marcus Peters is their dog. You know, he's their, if you know hockey, he's their Tom Wilson, like the captain, he's their enforcer. And that's who Marcus Peters is. And not having him, I think, really hurt him. You know, and he's a big guy that takes a lot of, you know, makes a lot of plays, you know, intercepting balls and stuff. Now, Kyle Hamilton's got great instincts. He and Peters, probably the 2 best instincts of those guys. So I think they'll make some plays there. I think Hamilton, I think they'll protect him some early. I don't think he came along as fast as they would have liked to have, you know, so they're going to take advantage of Kyle Hamilton, 6'5", 220. You know, they'll have him in the slot. They'll have him blitzing. They'll have him do those. They're not going to have him because where did he kind of lack? Deep speed, because he ran 4.59, 4.6. That's why he dropped the draft. So they're not going to line him up on a wide receiver where he's going to go one-on-one with a guy that runs 4.3 because he's going to lose that. So they're going to put him in position to be successful. And I think at nickel and dime, Gary, I think they're going to have 6 DBs on the field a bunch. You know, Queen's got to show that he can play, you know, coverage. If not, they're going to be playing all DBs.
Are they going to have the talent on hand, Vinny, to give teams a problem with their pass rush? It seemed like last year there was Oweh early, then teams started double teaming him, and then there was nothing else.
You know, that's my biggest question mark too, Stan. I mean, you got Justin Houston, who had four sacks or 4.5, and you got Oweh, who had 5.5. I mean, between the two, they're not even at double digits yet. You know, and Houston's at his age now, he's not a guy that can play every down, you know, and he's not going to play. You don't want him setting the edge and playing the run, you know, so you want him getting 30 snaps a game. Oweh can play every down, but there's nobody else right now that can rush the passer. You know, I mean, they're getting some guys on the practice squad and stuff. But when Ajabo comes back, hopefully in December, he'll be better than all of them. He's more natural, got a better bend and stuff, even than Oweh, you know, and I love Ajabo. You know, and if the Ravens can get to December and be right there, Ajabo is going to give him a big boost. Now, when Bowser comes back in what, 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever,
right?
I mean, he's not a natural pass rusher. All his sacks were wink aided, you know, stunting and blitzing and doing those things. And I think that's what they're going to do a lot of, Garrett. They're going to try to disguise, and they're going to try, you know, to confuse people, and they're going to line everybody up at the line, and, you know, 4 will come or 3 will come and the rest will drop back. I think those are the things that they're going to try to do defensively.
Vinny, before we let you go, we've got a few more minutes with you. Okay. You got 3 or 4 more minutes with us?
Yeah, I got to fill my glass of wine back up.
All right. We'd let you do that. I was going to just ask you around the league, and I know a little bit because I heard your dirty dozen the other day.
Right.
If Philadelphia was 9-8 last year, Indy was 9-8 last year, Miami was 9-8 last year, the Chargers were 9-8. Are those teams, which ones are better and which ones might fall back?
I think Chargers are better. You know, I mean, look at what they've done pass rush and I think the Chargers got a chance to be pretty good. You know, I mean, I picked them to go to the playoffs, be 11-6. And if they play, the only thing that can screw that, their coach scares me because he gambles too much, you know, and he goes forward. He's got to be a little bit more conservative, you know. And Philly, I think Philly's going to be much better, and especially if Hurts, because they've added weapons, they've added some good players offensively.
AJ Brown,
yeah.
You know, so they're going to be good.
And how about Matt Ryan in Indianapolis? Do you
like
think after Rivers and Wentz, I think Ryan's the right guy for a couple of years there?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Ryan has been good, consistent, whereas Wentz, he's been inconsistent. You know,
he's a roller coaster.
I think he'll be the same thing for Washington this year.
Yeah.
So
you know, Stan,
I think Indy wins that division.
Yeah,
you know, Stan, all those teams that you mentioned, I think, are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Hey, Vinny, I'm going to put in the division, I'm going to put Pittsburgh and Cleveland below Baltimore for the quarterback situation, if nothing else, obviously. But is Cincinnati still a notch above the Ravens?
You know what? We broke down both of their rosters. We took both rosters and looked at them. I mean, and when you look at the rosters, Gary, I mean, the Ravens have better O-line if Ronnie's healthy. They have better tight ends. Cincy has better receivers, better running backs. Quarterbacks, each one for their offense is better than the other.
Right,
you know,
right.
Defensively, I tell you what, if you look at Cincy's safeties compared to the Ravens safety, it might be a push, or you could say Cincy's was better. Corners, Ravens are better. D-line, Ravens are better. Linebackers and pass rushers, Bengals are better. I think, you know, the big difference is, you know, I think kickers and punters, but I think the big difference is the coach. I think Harbaugh is so much better, you know, than the Bengals coach, that I think that makes a big difference. But I think I've got both 11-6 and the Ravens winning a tiebreaker. I think the Bengals are good. I think the Bengals are good.
Vinny, I got one last question before, and we really appreciate, Gary and I really appreciate you spending some time with us. This thing this year that popped in the NFL with how much money receivers are making.
Right.
Where did that come from all of a sudden? And what's it going to do to how they pay other players?
Well, like my cap guy used to tell me, he says, hey, you can have whatever you want. Comes down to choices. You know, you want this and you want to pay that. All right, then where do we get that from? You know, and the cap's going to go up, and it only takes one.
Right.
Once you get one, then every agent is working off of that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's the problem, is it takes one, and now all those elite receivers, they all want to get paid. And you watch, if Mahomes has another good year, that 10-year deal he had, he's going to want a new deal too. And if Josh Allen's the MVP, his deal that he did last year, he's going to want to probably redo that in a year or so also.
Hey, Gary, you got one last one for Vinny, and then we'll let him get out.
I'm good to go. I want to watch some football, guys.
All right, we're going to watch some football tonight. Again, he's part of the Vinny and Haynie team, 10 to 2 every day, Monday through Friday on 105.7 The Fan. How's your son doing with his hockey career?
Yeah,
what's going on?
Good. He's they're still practicing right now. They're in Plymouth, Michigan. He plays for U.S. development team U18s, and they have preseason game a week from today. And then they're playing 22 colleges this year. They're playing Minnesota, Michigan, North Dakota. They're playing all those along with the USHL. And then his draft years this year too. So big year for him. Big year.
Is that like playing in the D League or G League in the NBA? Like, is that what that's like? It prepares them for the draft.
It's still an amateur league.
Yeah, it's an amateur.
Stan, they're playing 3 international tournaments. You know, that they'll play Czechoslovakian, you know, and all. There would have been Russia, but not anymore. But like they're playing. There's one in November in Michigan. That's the first one. Then they go to Finland in February for 10 days. And then they go to Switzerland, which is the big one, the U18s, where for 10 days in Canada and Czechoslovakia and Sweden and Switzerland, they'll all be there. That's the biggest one of the year.
All right.
Sounds good, Vinny.
Cap's going to be any good this year, Vinny?
I think they're kind of old, you know, and they haven't had a lot of draft picks. That's the problem with the Caps.
All right. Hey, really appreciate it.
Hope we keep scoring, you know.
Yep. Let's keep going, Ovi. All right. Thanks a lot. Vinny Cerrato.
Thank you,
For
Vinny.
Gary Stein and Vinny, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you Monday night. I'll be on with Ross Grimsley. Our guest will be Jim Duquette, another former general manager, but he didn't work for a Michigana like this guy did. All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Vinny. Bye.
Yep.
Yeah.